My dear Divine Feminine, this message is for you. You have spent so much of your life pretending that everything was okay, even when your heart was carrying storms that no one could see. You smiled in rooms where you wanted to cry. You comforted people who never realized that you also needed someone to comfort you. You became the strong one because life gave you no other choice. While everyone admired your ability to keep moving forward, very few stopped to ask how much pain you had buried inside your own soul. I see the woman who kept showing up for everyone while secretly wondering if anyone would ever show up for her. I see the woman who gave love without conditions, loyalty without limits, and kindness without expecting applause. Yet somehow, the very people you sacrificed for overlooked your efforts. They accepted your love as if it were something ordinary, never realizing that your heart was one of the rarest gifts they would ever receive. You are a brave woman. Not because your life has been easy, but because you kept walking through difficult seasons when every part of you wanted to give up. Courage is not the absence of pain. Courage is waking up after another sleepless night, wiping away your tears, and deciding to keep believing that tomorrow can still become something beautiful. There were days when loneliness became your closest companion. You sat in silence wondering why you always seemed to be the one who understood everyone else's emotions while nobody understood yours. You carried conversations inside your mind that you could never speak aloud because you feared being misunderstood. You protected everyone else's feelings while hiding your own wounds deeper and deeper. People often assume that the strongest person doesn't need help. That is one of the greatest misunderstandings in this world. The strongest hearts are usually the ones carrying the heaviest burdens. They become experts at smiling through heartbreak. They learn how to encourage others while quietly losing pieces of themselves. They become so good at hiding their sadness that even those closest to them never realize how much they are suffering. You never wanted people to feel guilty for your pain. You simply hoped someone would notice without you having to beg for attention. You hoped someone would see the exhaustion behind your smile. You hoped someone would hear the sadness hidden behind your laughter. You hoped someone would ask, "Are you really okay?" and actually wait for your honest answer. Instead, many people became comfortable with receiving your love while giving very little in return. They celebrated your strength because it benefited them. They relied on your kindness because it made their lives easier. But they forgot that even the strongest woman has moments when her heart longs to rest. You questioned yourself more times than anyone knows. You wondered if you were asking for too much by wanting honesty, respect, consistency, and genuine affection. You blamed yourself for relationships that were never yours to fix. You replayed conversations, searching for mistakes that were never there. You carried responsibility for problems that belonged to others. The truth is that your biggest mistake was believing that if you loved harder, people would eventually love you the same way. You believed that enough patience could change someone who never intended to grow. You believed your loyalty would inspire loyalty in return. You believed your forgiveness would heal hearts that were committed to remaining unchanged, but love cannot force someone to value what they have. Kindness cannot make someone grateful. Loyalty cannot make someone faithful. Your beautiful heart was never the problem. There were moments when you stood alone while surrounded by people. That kind of loneliness is different. It is not the absence of company. It is the absence of understanding. It is realizing that people know your name but never truly know your heart. They recognize your face but overlook your silent battles. They appreciate what you do but rarely appreciate who you are. You became skilled at carrying emotional weight because you thought asking for help would make you appear weak. Somewhere along your journey, you convinced yourself that your feelings should come second. You prioritized everyone else's healing while postponing your own. Day after day, month after month, year after year, you continued pouring from a cup that was slowly becoming empty. Still, something inside you refused to disappear. Despite every disappointment, your heart continued believing in goodness. Despite betrayal, you continued choosing kindness. Despite rejection, you continued hoping that one day someone would finally recognize your value without needing to lose you first. That hope is not weakness. It is proof that your spirit remains alive. The world may have underestimated you because your strength was quiet instead of loud. You never felt the need to compete for attention. You never needed to prove your worth through endless arguments or dramatic displays. You simply loved with sincerity, served with humility, and carried yourself with grace. Unfortunately, quiet strength is often mistaken for endless availability. People assume that because you are patient, they can keep testing your limits. They assume that because you forgive, they can continue repeating the same behavior. They assume that because you remain calm, they can ignore your feelings without consequences. But every heart has a breaking point. Every soul reaches a moment where it finally understands that protecting its peace is not selfish. It is necessary. Perhaps you have reached that moment now. Perhaps you are finally realizing that your energy is sacred. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to your kindness. Not everyone deserves another chance after repeatedly showing you exactly who they are. Boundaries are not walls built out of bitterness. They are doors that only open for those who know how to treat your heart with respect. You were never created to spend your entire life convincing people to appreciate you. The people who are meant for you will not constantly make you question your value. They will not make you earn basic respect. They will not disappear whenever life becomes inconvenient. They will not expect you to carry every emotional burden while they remain comfortably distant. Real love creates safety, not confusion. Real friendship creates peace, not constant anxiety. Real family honors your heart instead of taking it for granted. You have survived experiences that should have destroyed your confidence, yet here you are, still searching for light. That alone speaks volumes about your character. There were chapters where you thought you had lost yourself forever. You looked into the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. The sparkle in your eyes seemed dimmer. Your laughter became quieter. Your dreams felt farther away than ever before, yet your soul never stopped whispering. It kept reminding you that this chapter was not your entire story. It kept reminding you that pain is temporary even when it feels endless. It kept reminding you that your identity was never defined by how poorly others treated you. Listen carefully, beautiful soul. Your worth has never depended on another person's ability to recognize it. A diamond remains valuable even when someone mistakes it for an ordinary stone. Gold remains precious even when buried beneath layers of dirt. Your light remains real even when surrounded by people who choose not to see it. Do not allow temporary rejection to convince you that you are permanently unworthy. Do not measure your value by the opinions of people who never took the time to understand your heart. You have always been enough, not because you are perfect, not because you never make mistakes, but because your heart carries authenticity in a world that often rewards appearances more than sincerity. The loneliness you carried in silence will not last forever. The tears you cried when no one was watching have not been forgotten. Every lesson has shaped you into someone wiser, stronger, and more compassionate than you were before. One day, the same heart that felt invisible will be seen. The same kindness that was ignored will be appreciated. The same loyalty that was taken for granted will finally be cherished by people who understand its true value. Until that day arrives, continue choosing yourself, continue protecting your peace, continue believing that your story is still unfolding. You are not defined by those who overlooked you. You are defined by the courage that kept you standing when life gave you every reason to fall. And that courage will continue carrying you toward a future where your heart no longer has to hide its loneliness, because it will finally be surrounded by people who recognize your worth before you ever have to explain it.